Adoration of the shepherds and other devout visits to the crib. In the early dawn after the birth of Jesus, the three eldest of the shepherds came to the crib cave with the gifts they had gathered together. These consisted of little animals, bearing some resemblance to deer. They were very lightly built and nimble, and had long necks and clear, beautiful eyes. They followed or ran along beside the shepherds, who led them with fine guiding cords. Shepherds carried also large birds under their arms, and dead ones slung over their shoulders. They told Joseph at the entrance of the cave what the angel had announced to them, that they had come to do homage to the child of promise and to offer him gifts. Joseph accepted their presents and allowed them to lead the animals into the space that formed a kind of cellar near the side entrance of the cave. Then he conducted them to the Blessed Virgin, who was sitting on the ground near the crib, a rug under her, the infant Jesus on her lap. The shepherds, their staves resting on their arms, fell on their knees and wept with joy. They knelt long, tasting great interior sweetness, and then intoned the angelic canticle of praise and read a psalm that I have never forgotten. When they were about to take leave, Mary placed the child in their arms. Some of the other shepherds came in the evening, accompanied by women and children, and bringing gifts. They sang most sweetly before the crib the Gloria, some psalms, and short refrains of which I remember the words, O child blooming, as a rose art thou, as herald thou comest forth. They brought gifts of birds, eggs, honey, woven stuffs of various colors, bundles of raw silk, and ears of corn, also several bundles of corn with heavy grains, growing on a stalk with large leaves, like those of rushes. Some days after the birth of Jesus, I saw a touching scene in the crib cave. Joseph and Mary were standing by the crib and gazing with emotion upon the infant Jesus, when suddenly the ass fell upon its knees and lowered its head to the ground. Mary and Joseph shed tears. I saw Mary at another time standing by the crib. As she gazed upon the child, the deep conviction stole upon her that it had come upon the earth to suffer. That reminded me of a vision I'd had at an earlier period in which I had been shown how Jesus, while still in his mother's womb, and from the movement of his birth, had suffered. I saw under the heart of Mary a glory in it, a bright shining child. As I gazed upon it, it seemed as if Mary were hovering over it and surrounding it. I beheld the child growing in all the torments of the crucifixion inflicted upon it. It was a sad, a fearful sight. I wept, I sobbed aloud. I saw other forms around it, beating and pushing, scourging and crowning it. Then they laid the cross upon it. Next, nailed it to the same, and pierced it in the side. I saw the whole passion of Christ in the child. It was a frightful sight. As the child hung on the cross, it said to me, all this I did. I suffered from my conception until my 34th year, when my passion was outwardly consummated. The Lord died when he was 33 years old and 3 months. Go and announce it to men. But how can I announce it to men? I saw Jesus also as the newborn child, and I saw how many of the children that went to the crib ill-treated the infant Jesus. The Mother of God was not there to protect the child, and the children went in with all kinds of switches and rods and struck it in the face until the blood flowed. The child meekly extended its little hands before its face in order to ward off the blows. The smallest children were they that struck the most maliciously. The parents of some even twisted and wrapped the rods for them. They brought thorns, nettles, whips, little rods of all kinds, each having its own signification. One came with a very slender rod, like a reed, but when it was about to strike the child, the rod snapped and fell back upon itself. I knew several of the children. Some went about boasting of their fine clothes, but I stripped them and whipped some of them. While Mary was still standing by the crib in deep meditation, some shepherds drew near with their wives, all in all about 5 persons. To give them room to approach the crib, the Blessed Virgin withdrew to a little spot upon which she had given birth to the child. The people did not actually adore, but they gazed down upon the child, deeply moved, and before leaving, they bowed low over it, as if kissing it. Ah, could we, like these women, behold the beauty and purity of the innocent wisdom of Mary? She knew all things, but in her humility she appears unconscious of her gifts. Like a child, she casts down her eyes, and when she raises them, her glance, like a flash of lightning, like the truth, like a ray of unsullied light, pierces one through and through. It is because she is perfectly pure, perfectly innocent, full of the Holy Ghost, and without any reflection on self. No one can resist her glance. These people appear to have come at least some miles, and that secretly, for they avoided being seen in the city. Joseph behaved with great humility during such visits, retiring and looking on from some distant corner